Boy, oh boy, oh boy, you just got your McNally Trigger for your Glock 42. This is the best trigger on the market. Now what we have to do is put it in the gun. Now be patient because I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. Pull the slide back, make sure it's empty, make sure the magazine is out. Pull the slide back several times, look in the chamber, and then pull the trigger. Point it in a safe direction. Pull the trigger. Now take the slide off. We all know how to do that. Slide comes off. Now, some people use a hammer to get this pin out, but if you had the skill, you don't have to. You move this, your slide stop up and down to disengage the retaining rings on the trigger pin. Pull your trigger pin out, and this is where this differs from the other Glocks, because the locking block goes out before your slide stop. Once the slide stop is out, just knock the trigger pin out, then grab it by the ejector and pull the assembly out. Now this is where this differs from the other Glocks. You just pull it forward and twist it out, and then we're going to disregard our standard trigger. Ta-da! Here is the Glock trigger. Okay, now be careful, because the Glock trigger mechanism has a little notch where the trigger bar has to fit in. So hook it in until it hooks into that notch. That's easy for me to say. And put your trigger assembly back in. Oop, come out of the notch. Put it in again. Until see how it fits in that notch there? And hold it by the end of the trigger bar and slip it in the gun. Then put your trigger pin back in. The trigger pin, this trigger pin goes from either way, left or right. Then put your slide stop in. This is different than the other guns. The slide stop fits in. Get it in that notch right in here, and then slide the slide stop all the way in. Then put your, what's this part called? It's called a locking block. Put the locking block back in, push it all the way down, put your trigger pin back in, okay. Now I like to put the trigger pin back in and then lay it on the table and take your punch and kind of roll it around there until it lines up with your locking block or your slide stop. Then put your trigger pin here, click, your trigger assembly is in. Then we also include a 5-pound firing pin spring. Now this is optional. If you want to put it in, hold tight, because we're going to show you how to do that. And these are a 5-pound Wolf firing pin. To put the firing pin spring in, you take your punch and push forward on the let's see, firing pin sleeve. So put it on the table, slide down, then cover, just slide the slide cover plate off. Now when you do that, be careful to cover the whole back end of the slide. Because if you don't, this little bad boy here is called a spring-loaded bearing. Okay, Then pull your firing pin assembly out. Put your firing pin back in the firing pin hole, like this. Then carefully pull down on your firing pin spring and see how your cups come off. Pull your firing pin out. Put your other firing pin spring in. Pull it down all the way. Then put your spring cups so the slide is down here. Kind of hold it with your finger. Put the other one in. Oh, I knew that it'd go off. These things are really, really careful. You have to be patient with it. Cover them up and let the trigger spring or the firing pin spring over the spring cups. Now, be careful when you do this, because if these fly off the firing pin assembly, God takes these pins in midair and you'll never find them again. And put your firing pin assembly back in your slide, in your slide cover plate. Slide that on. Push in on your spacer sleeve or your sleeve. Now, if you use a standard Glock tool, it's the same size as the spring-loaded bearing. This is a 1.5 mm punch, so you have to push in on your extractor, your extractor spring, and then slide your plate up. Here, click. If it clicks, you're righteous. Put the gun back together and pull the trigger and hear it rattle. If you rattle it enough, the chickens will come, because that's what it sounds like, clicking of a chicken. If you can hear that noise, you're righteous. Pull it back, and there is nothing but smiles from now on when you pull that trigger.